Welcome to the Ultimate Man Podcast. Is your name Billy? We've been looking for you. Now, maybe your name's not Billy, and if your name is Billy, well, hey, we're not just calling you out, but we're going to call every guy out there listening our Billy, because I know at one time there's been a broken Billy. But there's also a badass Billy. And so we want to take you from the broken Billy to the badass Billy. So whatever your name is, whether it's Coach Aaron or whether it's Coach Lalonde, we're here to help you. We're here to work together in the community. And today we're going to put together a list of questions that we've received on our forums, in our social medias. We've even been at this for 25 to 30 years each, Coach Aaron and myself. And we've collected questions from our clients who've real life transformed from broken Billy into badass Billy. So if you're here and you're ready to get down to business answering some Q&A with the coaches, that's what you're going to find in today's episode. Coach Aaron, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, brother. Ready to rock and roll, helping Billy to be badass.
Let's go, Billy. Nice. All right, so if we're ready to dive in, let's get down to business. The first question from our Billy out there in the world was working out from home. Because again, we've had this shutdown in world that's happening, and not everybody's in a gym anymore. A lot of people working out from home now. That's probably my specialty at this point. In the last 3 years, I've worked out from home more than I have in any gym. In fact, I haven't been in a gym in 3 years. People are like, oh, don't you need to have massive amounts of equipment to be able to work out? And I'm like, nope, this is actually the better way for me at this point in my life. And I've found a way to make it work with specific equipment on a minimum budget. So if that's you, then we got some solutions for you. So the best equipment, this is the question, best equipment for a home workout and the best home workout routine to follow. So Coach Aaron, have you been working out at home? What is your advice?
Yeah, I've worked out at home a lot. I started working out at home when I very first started lifting weights and I just had like a little bench press, so I would do bench press and curls and maybe some bent over rows and stuff, just like minimal weight, but I did used it for a multitude of different exercises. So even as a little kid, I started with nothing, just a little home gym. Then I've gone to gyms, and then I reverted back to doing some home workouts again, kind of during lockdown and stuff, and just in certain periods of my life. And so I'll tell you a couple of the pieces of exercise equipment that are always been my favorites. I've got these dip bars. It's like a dip and a pull-up kind of row bar combo. So you can use it as a dip, or you can lay on your back and do like a row. Because you always we want to think about balancing your body symmetrically between the push and the pull to create a balance. So, you do a chest exercise with some dips, you do a row exercise. You could also do like leg raises with it and stuff. So it's a real simple, just some little metal bars that's really lightweight and really versatile. You can do some of the basic compound exercises with it. So a good set of some dip and pull-up bars. Also like a pull-up bar you can just hang from your doorway. Great, right? For your lats and stuff and your arms. And then exercise bands, of course. I really got into exercise bands pretty heavy. And you just want to get several different resistances. So you use some lightweight ones for some like isolation work of the smaller muscle groups. Get some heavier resistance ones for the more compound exercises, again, like your push-ups and your pulls, legs even. And then I got a couple dumbbells, just some moderate weight dumbbells and a little barbell. And you could get more extravagant depending on your budget and how much you want to put into it. But I mean, even if you just had like a set of those bars and some bands and a dumbbells, that's like a solid start right there. You could do a fully functional workout. I know you do a ton of home workouts, like you were saying too. What do you think?
That's great. Yeah, I love that. And for those of you who don't know what the bars are, we may be able to flash a picture on the screen and show you a little snippet of what those look like right here. Right. All right. So now, that being said, we're going to take a look at some of the equipment that I have. The first and foremost thing I started with, and this is crazy. All right. So I started teaching on Zoom during the shutdowns, and we were doing like online boot camp. I did not have any equipment, like zero. I had nothing. I was like, I need to have something to work out with. And I thought, well, body weight is a start. So anyone listening to this, you're at home, you got no equipment, start with your body weight. You got push-ups, and we're going to talk about how to get there, but push-ups, squats, and you can do lunges and things like that where you're lifting your body weight. And if you're lifting it more than once, then that's abnormal, right? So creating growth is outside the comfort zone. Well, we're pretty used to like squatting down once to pick up our keys. You drop your keys, pick them up. But if you have to squat down, say 10 times to 12 times in a row, the muscle starts to respond, going, hey, this is different. This is overload. And you're starting to get response from that. And some guys will say, well, yeah, but I'm not going to get jacked off of that. Like as far as my just doing body weight squats, well, listen, it's going to be a volume thing too. So we're going to dive deeper into how to structure this out and get more out of it. So I started with body weight. But I had a couple of small soda stream containers. This was something I had like in the kitchen. And so I filled them with water and they weighed 1 pound. I put them on the little kitchen scale things, weigh 1 pound. I was like, okay, well, I literally am starting with 1 pound weights. This is silly. But what I started doing was I was just adding it to my body weight. So now if I weighed, say 190, I was now 191, right? Or 192 because I had two dumbbells or two of these. And again, I started so dirt cheap. Then I got on Amazon and I ordered up some bands. Once the bands came into play, the game changed big time. So like Coach Aaron was saying, get the rubber bands. The bands came in like two different intensity sets. The first one ranged from, the smallest band being about 10 pounds of resistance all the way up to like 50 pounds. But when you add them all together, you were getting like 150 pounds of total weight if you used all the bands at one time. So I was like, hey, cool. Now you can really add squat weight and stuff to that. So the bands became a major home movement worker. What I found too is they were a lot different from dumbbells in the gym, because I had more of that continuous strength with the band as it, the strength curve was changing and the band was getting heavier at the top when it's fully stretched, like an elastic. So you can see that, you can feel that what we're talking about. Then the bands, I realized, I had to have something to hook to be able to row with them. I was having a harder time figuring out where am I going to hook this and loop it. I had no banister to wrap it around or anything to hold it for the row. So then I looked at what you mentioned, Coach, the in the door chin-up bar. And I thought that might be an option. And I used that. A lot of people are concerned with the in the door chin up bar because they're like, oh shit, I don't want to pull my door frame down, or rip my door right out with that. I weigh 200 pounds or whatever. And it's like, that's not actually the case. The way that they're structured is the bar pushes into the frame of the door rather than pulling down on it. Even though you think you are, it's not actually pulling on your trim or anything like that. So I was able to support my body weight and then some at the in the door chin-up bar. I was able to start getting back work done on a pull-up bar that way. And again, it only cost me about 15 Canadian dollars for this little in the door mount chin-up bar. Totally reasonable. I'm building a home gym piece by piece. So I got bands, I got a couple soda stream shakers, and I got this door frame chin-up bar. I'm starting to work it out, right? Plus I'm adding in my body weight movements and we're doing the push-ups and stuff. Then I went on Amazon and I started with dumbbells. I was like, I'm going to look for a set of dumbbells. Got like my first set of, I think I went with 25 pounders out of the gate, something kind of that I could work arms, shoulders.
Great weight.
Yeah. Because I figure if I go too light, I'm not going to be able to stimulate any of the larger, bigger compound moves. And if I go too heavy, I'm not going to be able to do any of the small isolated stuff. So I need a weight to start somewhere in the middle of it all. So I went that route. And I think it was about 20 or 25 pounds. Then I realized the investment was getting quite hefty every time I had to buy another set of dumbbells. So one of my clients actually said, hey, Coach, did you see this? There's an adjustable dumbbell that you can get that has anywhere between 5 and 52.5 pounds per dumbbell. And I was like, yeah, I have seen those, like the old Bowflex, and we don't get paid by Bowflex to mention their name here, but although we should. So, so I figured, you know what, I'm going to invest in that, because at the end of the day, I was building this rack of dumbbells, which is great. If you have the finances to do that, that's wonderful. But the adjustable one worked for me because it ended up being I ended up at about, again, we're talking Canadian dollars here, but about 300 Canadian dollars. I was able to get a set of 2 dumbbells, which is now literally my home gym of everything from 5-pound dumbbell to the set of 10s, 20s. And it also went in between. So I had like 12.5 you could dial, which doesn't exist if you buy single dumbbell, isolations. There's no 12.5-pound dumbbell. So now I was able to find weights of increment that worked in between. When you're doing a certain movement, you get to you can do the 10-pounder, but you move to the 15-pounder and it, for some reason, you can't get that one. It's nice to be able to go in the middle, right? And say, I wish that existed. Well, the adjustable allows that. So again, I'm not just promoting that for that reason, but it's a benefit. It's a bonus. So now I have anywhere between a 5-pounder and a 52.5-pound dumbbell. And I can tell you, when you're doing it right, you're doing it under controlled tension, you're doing the right amount of reps, and you got a really good program and prescription, you can make 52.5 pounds on, one given dumbbell work for just about everything you need. And so a lot of people wonder, is that going to be enough weight for me? Well, there's bigger dumbbells you can get too. That's just a really good start at an efficient budget. So $300 of dumbbells, a $15 chin-up bar, and some rubber bands that probably ran about 30 Canadian dollars. I was building a gym for well under $500, and I've got this full home workout, and then I think after that, it was basically just putting together the different ways to use it. So that's where we kind of got into the second part of this question is what is the best home workout routine to
Yeah.
do? So the only thing I didn't get into, coach, and I saw it with yours and I loved it, was the bars. Those bars that we put the picture of, those bars are, they're definitely awesome for doing any kind of dips, because I always struggle with how do you get a good dip in there? At home if you don't have anything to kind of get yourself on. And I've used the kitchen chairs. I've put those together. I've used the kitchen counter. I've kind of got in the corner of the kitchen counter and done dips. I've done obviously the chair dip stuff. And then I found the TRX suspension. That was the piece I added to the part, because I was getting I guess, starting to get into body weight. How can I maximize it even more? And I realized hanging it against gravity would allow me to get more movement weight on there. And again, TRX was so adjustable and so user friendly. I took a couple courses. I got certified as a TRX or a suspension trainer coach to make sure I was teaching it right. And then I started teaching that online as well. And I actually have, coaching courses for that. So that turned out to be really awesome. Plus it was novel. So, being that not everybody was doing it, we got great results and everybody really loved it because it was so different and so fun. So there's another option. If you're working out at home and you don't yet know the value of a suspension system, it is gold. So that's my home gym. That's what I've got, bro.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, there's several things I just picked up from what you were saying there too that I would add is like, yeah, the TRX bands are like next level, dude. Like you can easily add your body weight to those. Like what I like to do, one of the things is I'll get the TRX straps for in a push-up position, and then I'll put my feet elevated up on like a yoga ball. So a yoga ball is another good piece of home workout equipment that I like too, because you can, like I said, elevate your feet, put your hands on the TRX bands, and then you're doing a push-up, but you're at like a decline position. So it's a lot harder. It's like the opposite of doing knee push-ups because it's a lot more of your body weight. So that's one I like to do. And then also you can always add resistance to your dumbbells with the bands even is another option too. Like I've used dumbbells and then you strap bands onto the dumbbells and anchor them on the floor. Then you've got the resistance of the dumbbells and the bands make it harder at the end range of motion as well. So you can kind of always combine those two things together too. I'll use in my Fight Fit workout. I got these weighted gloves. So that's a good one. And then a weighted vest. Again, start small, just gradually build it up as you build up your repertoire. But I've also got like a PDF of all of the recommended home gym workout equipment too. So if you want to get that, I'll put a link in the description show notes below, and it's got a list of all the stuff that I've used in the past for home workout stuff.
Nice. That's gold. That's going to help people out a lot. So if you guys, you're clicking that link, get that PDF and see what Coach Aaron's used to build his home gym as well. I like that you were talking about weighted gloves. Can't say I've ever used that, but in boxing, we did a lot of hand weight training. So like we would shadow box and our coaches would say, go grab a little set of hand weights. And we had like 2-pounders and I think 5-pounders and maybe even up to 8-pounders. And we would shadow box with the hand weights, and man, that just really took its toll on the shoulders like crazy.
Yeah.
Right? But one of the things that we would want to advise here is I noticed and I heard it that some of the guys were finding they were starting to get elbow pain. And what was happening was they were fully locking out with that weight in hand. So if you are going to use that weighted glove approach and stuff, my advice is to not fully extend and lock out the joint because you do have that weight out there. Would you agree there, Coach?
Oh yeah, 100%, dude. I've seen so many people that are just starting off and they're really putting their all into their punches. So they're like almost hyperextending their elbow on every punch. So just stop a little bit short and save your joints for sure.
Good. That's important. Yeah, I learned about deceleration power, which is a totally different sport-specific way of working on things, but it's that ability to kind of slow down and turn around the force that you're sending out. Because if you're sending a full punch out, locking out the elbow, and you add weight to that, it's now going to reach its extension and continue. The momentum of that 8 pounds you've added is pulling, and you're going to pull at the joint plus the hyperextension, which is, exactly why those guys were complaining. This is killing my elbows.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure if you're doing it right. We're here to protect you and help you, avoid the potholes in life. And, badass Billy can't be born out of, hyperextension. So we're going to make sure. In fact, hyperextension in MMA leads to most often a tap out, right?
Right.
That's the objective, is to force someone into that pain and then make them submit. So, think of
Yeah.
it that way, right? Don't do things to hurt yourself. But I like the weighted gloves and the weighted vest. Do you use it on hikes? Do you use it on runs? Would you recommend it on, like, say, if someone's doing sprints, or is that too much impact? What do you think?
I've used it a lot for hikes and then hill sprints as well. Oh my God, the hill sprints with the weighted vest on. It's an adjustable when it goes, 0 to 40. But if you put 40 pounds on or 20 even and run up a hill, that'll kick your butt. I also
Yeah.
use it for push-ups. I also use it for the dips when I'm doing dips or using the row bars. Anything you want to just add more to your body weight. It's a real simple hack.
It's gold. That's gold. I love it. And so now that we've got all these wicked pieces in, plus a PDF you guys can get, by clicking on the link, you're going to want to know, how to put it together and make something out of this. So one of the questions from one of our Billies out there in the world says, how many times per week should I train each muscle group? Now that's a very, structured question, but it also leads into, okay, now you got the right equipment. What should you be doing with it? Right. So if you're going to work a muscle group, is there a set science or something that you use, coach, between how many times a week you're working out? Let's just start with how many times a week should you work out first?
Yeah, I mean, I need a lot more context to really give a clear answer on that one. It all depends on the person's level of experience, what are their goals, how much time allowance do they have? Like there's really a lot more context that needs to be involved to answer that thoroughly. Just on a basic answering it kind of from a basic perspective, I think, generally just to develop some muscular strength and hypertrophy and make some gains, you want to train at least each muscle group, once a week. So if you're a more experienced bodybuilder or something, probably 1 to 2 times a week is a good recommendation. And the older you get too, the age factor is a big thing too. I used to train each muscle group on like a push pull leg split twice a week. I'd go 3 days on and then 1 day off, 3 days on, for example. And that was fine when I was younger, but now that I'm like over 50, I've just transitioned into just working each muscle group once a week. And then I just really blast it hard. And then I've got plenty of recovery time. It doesn't tax my central nervous system as much either. So I have more time to recover the central nervous system. So you need to take all of those factors into account, your nutrition and everything, But if you're a
Mm.
beginner, you might want to train more frequently. You might want to train, a full body workout, 3 times a week or something like that. So there's so many factors involved, but train each muscle group, at least once, probably twice a week for some of you young guns or that are looking for a little bit more rapid development.
Yeah. I love it. And I love that you mentioned in there when you talked about the intensity, you said if you're only going to train it once, you hit it pretty hard. And again, I think back to some of our main events we had, we were talking with some of our guests on the show about duration. So if you're going for a shorter duration, you want to elicit the most amount of result you can in that short time, you're going to want to increase the intensity. If you're going for a longer duration, you can have lots of time, you can stretch that out and you can lower the intensity because we're adding volume over the course of the hour. But again, you got to figure out, what is your goal? And like Coach Aaron was saying, you've got a lot of individualized aspects to what your answer is going to be. So this is part of the reason that we have coaches, because a coach can't just generalize the information. And if they do, you should probably question the fact that it's going to work for you or not, because the generalized information might on a broad work for the general public, especially if you're new to the game getting started. But as you get more advanced, you need to get information that's going to be more advanced, specific to your situation. So that's very, very important. When looking at the literature and the science behind it, I just wanted to make sure we had a little bit of background fact. And they're saying, times for each muscle group, you want to hit 6 to 12 hard sets per body part per workout. Now that means that Coach Aaron, if you're going in and you're doing like a hard one body part, like let's just say you're doing a body part and you're only hitting it once a week, are you doing the 6 to 12 sets, in that one workout? Are you closer to the 12 sets, which would be like, say you take bicep, for example, let's just say simple to understand. One exercise with 3 sets is 3 of your 6 or 12 sets. A second bicep, so maybe you got, so let's just say concentrated curl, then you've got a hammer curl. Now you're up to 6 sets because you're doing 3 sets of each of those. Is that the approach you take, or are you kind of splitting it differently? If we're trying to get in that 6 to 12 sets range, and we're talking about the intensity, obviously the intensity being maxed out, you might be in the 6 range, but how do you handle that? If you're doing your once a week, are you in that 6 to 12 range?
Excuse me. Yeah, that's a good ballpark. I think I tend to aim towards, yeah, overall sets, yes, probably in the 6 to 12. But of those 6 to 12, maybe only so let's take, like you said, for biceps, for example, when I'm doing curls, I might pick like 2 exercises for curls, maybe like
Yeah.
a preacher machine curl and like a standing alternating dumbbell curl.
Mhm.
So I might do a total of 6 sets, 3 on one exercise, 3 on another, for the biceps that day. So I kind of tend towards the lower end of the spectrum on volume because my intensity level is really high. And then out
Mm.
of those 6 sets, I'll do probably 1 to 2 sets per each of those exercises to like absolute muscular failure where I just can't move my arms anymore, both concentrically and eccentrically on the positive and the negative, even throwing some partial long length partial reps in there too. So
Cool. That's
yeah.
good. That's good advice. And again, you mentioned a lot of real science behind the eccentric and the concentric. If you don't have a coach out there who's explaining those aspects of it to you, you're missing out. You really need to get that help because there's a lot of real motor unit recruitment science behind eccentric movement versus concentric. There are benefits to why you're going to get results or not get it if you're moving too quickly. So tempo and pace becomes a factor. I mean, but again, the question was, and again, we could go so deep into these questions, but again, so much of it is nuance. We're going to talk about how many times can I train each muscle group? So we're saying 6 to 12. Coach Aaron just gave you an example of 6. If he took those same 2 exercises and did each one 4 sets, then he would be up to 8 sets, right? So you can see just by adding that extra set on there, but it depends on the intensity. How much does he have left in the tank? Are you getting good quality value? So we don't want you to lead to injury, but we don't want you to go into the gym and waste your time either, or a home workout and waste your time. And there's some people who are going to say, well, it's never a waste of time if you do something because something's better than nothing. Well, yes, that's true, but at the same time, you want to make sure you're getting some bang for your buck. You're putting the work in, and if you don't see results, it's going to be very unmotivating, right? And I've seen too many people get discouraged because they're not seeing enough result. And we live in a world where you want the microwave button, push it, I want results in the next minute. So if you're
Yeah.
going to get discouraged easily by not seeing results, you should be putting the intensity into the workout. And when you talked about training to failure, I just wanted to ask you, when you do that, you said maybe you take 1 or 2 of those sets and you go to that all out failure. Do you save that for the end? Like so let's say you're doing 3 sets. Would set number 3 be the one you do the all out failure on? Or are you
Yeah.
trying to get that in set number 1 and then finish off whatever's left?
No, definitely on the final set. Yeah, you want to use the first couple sets as just preparatory sets. You're just warming up the nervous system. You're just getting the muscles and that mind muscle connection down. You're getting a good squeeze out of it. You're getting some blood flow in there. You're getting some elasticity and a good stretch out of each one and just really getting a good range of motion so that when you're ready to hit that failure point, your nervous system is primed, your muscles are primed, and you're ready to like kick some
Yeah.
ass without hurting yourself for sure.
Nice. That's so good. So there you have it. We've got 6 to 12 hard sets. And when we say hard sets, Coach was talking about that first one being like a mind to muscle connection. Sometimes that might warrant you doing that first one just as a primer or a mover to get things in the get ready to handle the weight. Then you can start your 3 sets if you've got time to do that. So you might call that 4 sets, but the first one is a real connector and it's light and maybe only 50% of what you're normally working with. And then you go into your 3 hard sets. So some people will say they do, oh, yeah, I do 20 sets, but it's like if you did the first 4 and you were just priming your way through, you know what I mean? You might even consider those to not be sets. I had a coach once that I was training under, and I asked him that question. I said, how many reps do you do in a given set? And he said it depends on how he feels it. So he said, I don't really base it on a certain amount of reps or whatever. He said, I basically base it on perfect form and perfect reps. So he said, I'm shooting for 10 to 12. Let's just say that was like his goal. And he said, but he might end up doing 15 to 20 in that set. But what he was saying is, I'm only going to count the 10 to 15 or 10 to 12 or whatever that I felt were perfect, the good ones, right? Because sometimes you're just not paying attention, you're disconnected or whatever. So I mean, there's so much in this, but his advice stuck with me because I was saying, it's going to be really down to the ones that are focused on getting quality contraction and not just, going through the motions. Because a lot of guys are swinging weights out there, just to say, I want to lift more. I got my curl up to, a 80-pound barbell curl now. And it's like, well, that looks impressive on paper, but if you showed me the video, we're going to be stopping you and going, dude, like, stop. If you can't control that bar and bring it through a proper path and, really show that you've got the strength and control of it at a set tempo, you're not getting that perfect rep out of it. And if you're not getting a perfect rep out of it, then what are you really getting? You're getting a bunch of repetitions that are maybe increasing the risk of injury more than they are benefiting your muscle growth. So I think those are some things to consider. What do you think of that, Coach? As far as, have you seen some crazy shit in the gym where people are looking to increase their numbers so bad that they'll sacrifice form and sacrifice everything in the idea of like routine?
Yeah, every day. I see it every day. Just, just not sometimes it's horrible form, sometimes it's just less than optimal form, where they're just not getting as much out of it as they could just by making a few tweaks. So that's one of the things that we do in the Ultimate Man Forum is we allow people to show us videos of their form and give them form checks and help them out with their form and technique so they're doing stuff correctly. So that's super cool. And then one of the things I would add on to that, you mentioned 6 to 12 sets. That's a good number that I like to stick to for like my whole overall volume for a workout. So we were talking about just biceps, but a lot of times I'll throw my back and biceps together. So I don't want to do just 6 sets of biceps on a back and bicep day, because then that doesn't allow enough volume for my back. So if I was doing back and biceps on one day, then maybe I would do my back first because it's one of the larger muscle groups, finish off with the biceps, but I might only do 4 sets of the biceps instead of 6 because I've already got a lot of bicep stimulation already through the back workout. And then by that time, they're already primed and warmed up. So when I do my 4 sets of the bicep exercises, I can really crush it with those failure sets. And some recent research that I've read is it only takes like 4, actually, it's like 1 to 2 sets even perform per week. If it's a sufficient intensity is enough to maintain or even gain muscle growth and strength. So, I mean, if you're even just hitting it 1 to 4 sets a week at a minimum, you're doing all right.
Right. And hitting it with the intensity. That's the other key there. But again, too much intensity over time is going to potentially lead to a higher risk of injury and less recovery time. So that's important. When you said you do maybe once a week, but you give it 6 days to recover before you're hitting it again. So that's part of the reason I see value. I have almost all of my programs designed as full body routine. And again, that might be different from most people who do splits, but I find splits are very good for someone who's got a lot of time invested and they can get into the gym. They're pretty determined, they're pretty consistent and driven, and they're maybe more experienced in that way. Because the people who are coming in maybe at the lower end, like a guy just getting back into it, and he says, oh yeah, I'm going to hit the gym 5 days this week, but then work gets in the way and other stuff gets in the way. And that one muscle group you had dedicated to that day gets missed completely, right? And you're like, oh shit, I was only going to work it once this week, and now I didn't get there because of X, Y, or Z, whatever happened, you got in your way, right? And now you're missing that muscle group altogether. So what Coach Aaron was saying, you start to stack a few groups, get them in there, so you got back and biceps. But now if I missed back and bicep day, I've also missed 2 muscle groups. So it's like that whole day is dependent on what you're going to get done. So I find with a full body approach for myself and my clients, we're guaranteed that we're going to get 1 full workout in there with the full body routine in there. Then if you hit it a second time, you get a second day on it. You're going to get your second time hitting that muscle. And you should hit a muscle group, 2 to 3 times a week in most, studies and evidence, because you're working more in the moderate to high intensity, but not like Coach Aaron was saying, you're going all in on it. If you're going to go once a week, you want to go all in on it. That makes sense. But if you're spreading out the intensity over volume through the week, and I try to explain it this way for people, when we're talking about the overload, if I said to you, we're going to lift, let's say 30,000 pounds today, as a total full body workout. We're going to break that down into sets and reps and of each muscle group. And if you lift, let's just say 50 pounds once, that's 50 pounds lifted. But if you lift 50 pounds twice, you're now up to 100 pounds lifted. So we're starting to add volume over time. Instead of saying, Coach Aaron, here's 100 pounds lift at once. That's one way to get there. But if we're trying to accumulate 30,000 pounds, you can't lift 30,000 pounds once. So we're going to build it up over time. And that's where the volume comes in. So one time, two times, or three times a week is based more on your schedule than, and then you base your intensity on the amount of time you're able to commit. So I think for guys out there listening, if you're a beginner just getting into it, a full body approach is a really great way to do it. That way you never feel the guilt of missing a workout or saying, oh, I was supposed to do chest today. I missed it. Now I'm not getting chest and I'm going to try to fit it in by the end of the week. And you end up kind of behind playing the catch-up game. Do you agree with me there, Coach, in the way that, like sometimes when you've got that split routine, if you miss a day, it can be more detrimental to your mindset and your health, your mental health than it is, like the physical. Obviously, you're not going to lose. People get fearing atrophy. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my gains if I don't hit it this week. We know that's not true. It's going to take multiple weeks before you start to see loss of muscle mass. But what about that mental game that it plays if you were to miss a workout? Like say today's back and biceps and whatever, you just can't get to it. And now your structure is messed up for the rest of the week because tomorrow's whatever the other parts were, right? How do you think that plays a factor? And is there benefit to the full body routine?
I think there's tremendous value to the full body routine, especially for, like you said, for more beginner, intermediate people, because on a mental aspect, just because they're not missing workouts, they hit, one full body workout a week, they're golden even, to begin with. And then if they hit more, they're even, just better off. And then it's just, you can't really, bring forth the amount of intensity. You don't have that mind muscle connection and that level of, and your form's not perfect enough to push the higher weights and volume when you're just starting off. So you don't want to go and crush it just once a week, like I might be doing, for instance. You want to be able to like start out at a moderate intensity with more frequency, like you're saying, and hit that muscle group 3 times a week with a full body workout, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then you're going to be better off in the long run. And then you can get a little bit more and adapt your program a little bit later on down the road. Once you're accustomed to that, that's easy peasy. If I hit a full body workout really hard, I would just be demolished the next day because I just like to go hit everything really hard. So I need to split it up. But for a beginner that doesn't have that level of intensity yet, perfect plan to start off with.
Perfect. Good. Excellent. I'm glad. Because again, we haven't discussed this, in advance. We're just kind of throwing out there what we do. Again, we always claim, that we aren't doctors, we aren't scientists. We're here to give you experience. And Coach Aaron trains different than I do. We have our clients train different, but then we also come together on the exact same things when we realize that there's a plateau eventually. And that's one of the questions that we got too. So, I might jump way over to get to that one. But one of the questions was about when you hit a plateau, like I've been doing this certain thing for so long, I'm no longer getting a result. Well, that's what we're talking about right here. The full body routine, switching to a split routine, is a plateau breaker because you're going to change some things up. But again, it's a matter of what your level is, what your goal is. So if you've got specific goals and you're like, okay, I love all this information we're getting in the podcast here. You guys are really good, with the amount of things you've experienced and the modes that you're using. But what about me and my level and what I have to work with? Maybe I'm in a gym, maybe I'm at home. How do I put that together? Well, you're going to need to reach out to us. That's the only way we can really take this further for you. There will be a lot of things you might be able to do or need to do. And there's a lot of things, this is the part that really strikes out, is this is the part where there's a lot of things you're going to need to not do right out of the gate that could end up being detrimental. I see too many people come in with one mindset, and that's, I'm going to get jacked, I'm going to get huge, and I'm going to lift heavy. And then I'll see you in a month while you're in a sling, or, you've got a torn tricep that has now retracted up into your arm. And it is scary. I've seen some bad injuries in the gym world, right? And again, I've been doing this for a long time, seen the wrong approach. Just like anything, the progressive overload is very important and it's got to be done right. So Coach Aaron has a ton of great programs and things inside of our forum that you get access to, but even deeper than that, we do have the ability for you to work with us as coaches too. So we're not here to try to sell you anything. We're here to help you. So keeping in mind today, we're taking Broken Billy into Badass Billy, right? And so if you're coming in as Broken Billy and you start going after that all out once a week approach, that's probably a bad route to take right out of the gate because Broken Billy is going to get even worse. What do you think, Coach? Are we guiding them in the right direction?
Yeah, true story. You need a lot of you guys that are just, starting off at that beginner intermediate level and you want to break through some plateaus and stuff. Reach out for help. That's what we're here for. Leave a comment here, underneath this YouTube in the comments here. Reach out to us on social media. We've got our links listed in the show notes as well below to our social media handles and stuff. And yeah, let's just get in touch and we'll help you get started.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. So we dove deep into the whole, exercise routines and structures, how much to hit a muscle. Someone asked, how do I begin a new exercise routine? When I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get ready for work, and then by the time I get home, I'm burnt out, I'm exhausted. So if there's some quick advice on that one, Coach, how do you get started on a routine that might work for this individual if they're getting up at 4 a.m. and then they're going to work and coming home and they're burnt right out?
Yeah, I've had, several clients recently that just had super demanding work schedules. They were up at the crack of dawn, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. They're up and they're off running to work right away. And they just don't have time to get something in first thing in the morning for a workout. And they're working for long hours, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. They get done with the 12-hour day. Who has got the energy left to work out, right? So one of the things that I like to suggest is to get a pair of exercise bands. Like I've worked with some guys that were, truckers, or maybe they're, even construction workers and stuff, and they're on the road for maybe a couple hours just to get to work, or maybe their job is, just driving a truck or something like that, and they're just kind of inactive for a large portion of the day. Get yourself a pair of exercise bands. You don't have to block, a half hour or a whole hour to work out. You can just do, well, I have this, it's called a Super 7. It's a 7-minute workout. You do like 5 sets back to back in succession. It only takes 7 minutes, and this like kind of real fast hit interval training type protocol. But you can get 5 sets done in 7 minutes, get a good 7-minute workout with some exercise bands. If you did that 3 times a day, for instance, you'd get 3 good solid exercises in during the days, and you didn't have to work out for an hour during the day. You only did 3 blocks of 7 minutes, which took you a total of 21 minutes. You could do just interspersed in your little, your breaks throughout the day. So that's one method that I like to use with a lot of my busy clients. So you got anything on that one, brother?
That's cool. I like that. And are you suggesting that the bands are so simple you could throw them in your bag and take them with you to work, like wherever you go or whatever?
Totally. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I've gone crazy with this, and I've suggested to some clients, you're going on a vacation or whatever, bring your TRX and your bands with you in your suitcase.
Yeah.
And you can hook it up in your hotel room if you needed to, even if your hotel room doesn't have a gym. And some people are like, I'm on vacation. Why the hell would I work out? Hey, if you got goals and you're driven, you want to hit those goals. So let me take you. I've got a client right now that I work with, and this guy is a surgeon for like veterinarian surgeon. So he works with, and I mean, he's so high level that he goes and he does speeches like all over, and he does lectures and things to teach other people. He's in different cities every week, and I mean, he's here too, so I get a chance to work with him. But then when he's on the road, he's literally, I started his training out with suspension and bands. And this is a guy who came in at like 295 pounds and a big man, and I started him with bands and a suspension system because I knew that based on his lifestyle I would not be able to keep him in the weight training in a gym atmosphere. And he's got a beautiful setup that we've created at his house now with dumbbells and barbells and a power rack, but when he goes on the road, all of that is gone. He might be lucky to hit a hotel that has the dumbbells, right? But even a dumbbell at the hotel goes up to, let's say, 50 pounds. For me, that's great. And again, like talk about that at home. There's ways to get it. But when we get to certain lifts on this, he's able to do about 90-pound dumbbells for some moves with good form and control. So when he gets to the hotel, he finds that with the 50, he's got to increase the volume. We go about it a different way, right, to get the result. And it's fine. We can do that. But he finds more value in the efficiency of whipping out the bands and the suspension system, throwing it over the door in the room, and just getting his workout done that way. It's quick,
Yeah.
it's efficient, but it's very strong signaled, and he never feels guilty about missing a workout. So
Yeah.
I love that you're saying take it with you and do like 3 little mini workouts a week, or sorry, a day, as you're doing that little Super 7 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I've seen some of the transformation pictures of the client you're talking about too. And he's ripped now, man. He's got like guns, and you can see the cuts on his deltoids and stuff. I'm like, damn, that's an awesome transformation.
Yeah.
And just started off with bands. And like you said, a lot of people don't know this, but they have these little door anchors that you can put in the door. You just close the door with the little door anchor, wrap the band around that so that you can use it for a multitude. You could anchor it down low, you can anchor it up high, so you can use it for a multitude of different exercises. It's very versatile.
Yeah.
Busy people, entrepreneurs, guys that are on the road all the time for business and stuff, grab yourself a pair of exercise bands. Again, I'll put the link to my home exercise equipment down in the show notes below.
Mhm.
There, grab a pair of several different resistances, and it's a freaking game changer.
Yeah, I love this. And we've found in the world of training that we've had more result, more success with the people who can remain more consistent. That's the bottom line. It's consistency. So the perfect workout done infrequently is never going to be anywhere near as good as an imperfect workout done consistently. Right? So if you're actually doing a workout, it doesn't have to be the perfect design. If Coach Aaron and I sat down and we designed you $1,000 program right now and said over the next 12 weeks you're going to transform your life using this particular program, we've proven that. We've seen that. And you don't do the program, it's worth $0 to you, right? It has no value. We could also say we've got a program that's $300 and it's, basically generalized, but if you do it every time, like every day, and you follow the program, you're still going to get great result. And you actually do it, that's worth $1,000 to you, and you only paid 300, right? So it really comes down to what it's worth is the value you get from it. You got to be consistent. So could you be consistent with 15, or say 7 to 15 minutes a day versus an hour and a half in the gym? Right? That's a big difference. So you got to consider all these questions that are going to come to us about workout protocols and all this and that. Most of the time, if that's coming from a very committed individual who's in the gym an hour a day and they're not missing days, then great, that question's valuable at that level. But these other people who are just getting started, those questions are so far in advance for you that the advice is be consistent and get into 7-minute super 7 protocol, get into a 15-minute, which is what I've used as my model for so long now. I created something I call Rapid Strong, and it's a 15-minute approach to a daily grind, right? So it's like a couple body parts each day, and you end up hitting each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week, but it's structured this way. So you can actually hit a 15-minute workout. And here's what I found. The results are better because in the first 15 minutes of your workout, your energy, your cognitive, your attention is at its best. And as we get into the 45th minute of a workout, how much energy do you have left? Your cognitive is foggy. You're falling asleep. You're looking at your watch going, holy shit, am I almost done? It's time to get out of here. And the quality of whatever you've got programmed in that last 15 minutes, 20 minutes is going to shit. It's getting very little of your quality attention. So if I said to you, why don't we do this? Take Aaron's 7-minute approach, take my 15-minute approach, and give us your best in that 15 minutes or that 7 minutes instead of dragging it out. Then you can come back tomorrow, you can hit a different part or whatever it be, and you can put that same 15 minutes of fresh intensity in there. If you can find consistency in that, you're going to get way better result than trying any other approach. Now, again, I'm not saying it's the only approach, but what a difference that's going to make in your life. If you're someone who's got this, I get up at 4 a.m, right? And I've got no time, no energy left when I'm done at the end of the day. I think those are the solutions, and they're going to be gold for you who's listening right now. What do you think, Coach?
Yeah, yeah. And one last thing on that is it just the mental capacity to be able to get hyped up for a workout for a lot of people is just like, oh, when you're first getting started or you're just not don't have your mojo flowing yet at first. It's just like, oh, I got to work out because it seems so hard. But what I did when I was out of shape, I was like, 25, 30 pounds overweight, and I was just starting out again. I was like, okay, what can I actually stay consistent with? What will I do and not bitch out to? Right. So I was like, all right, okay. So I came up with my own, again, like a 15-minute workout like yours. It's my Fight Fit strength and conditioning workout. Only 15 minutes, but it kicks your butt. You could go as easy as you want to or as hard as you want to. I've got beginners doing it, and advanced people doing it. And you can just go to your level of, experience and stuff. But you can get psychologically psyched up enough to be like, all right, I'm going to suck it up for 15 minutes. Like anybody can just suck it up for 15 minutes and then it's over before you know it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's a really good benefit too.
That's cool. And you know what else I like about the 15-minute approach that we were just talking about is being MMA and boxing fans. Boxing, not so much, but MMA directly. They're 3 5-minute rounds. That's 15 minutes. You
Yeah.
think about a fight, like, holy shit, I'm training like a fighter. 15
Yeah.
minutes. They go hard for 15 minutes, though. That's the goal. right? And the guy who goes the hardest in his 15 minutes usually is the winner, right? So
Yeah.
go 15 minutes hard. If you're finding 15 minutes is too much to ask for, then go the 7 minute approach, like Coach was saying, super seven. And then you're saying, in that 7 minutes, what should I do, right? Well, we've got these workouts laid out for you. All you got to do is reach out to us and we'll get you set up. And, I use apps, and Coach, I know you use a different platform, but the workouts are still easy to follow. They're user friendly, and you get coaching and detailing with it too. So, I mean, you can't beat working with a coach, and obviously that's why we're here. We're here to help people out and give you that guidance. So 4 a.m. workers, I'm two busy workers, family men, your dad's out there, you guys, there's always a way to do it to get the result. So that's perfect. Now when someone is looking for a way to lose abdominal fat, this is a question we got here. What are the best exercises for losing my abdominal fat? And so, Coach Aaron, if I said, give me, your best advice on how I could get rid of the love handles, how do I get it? What exercise am I going to use?
Well, you should do some weighted vest, hanging leg raises, and you should just do a certain specific angle on it or it doesn't work. Okay. And if you don't know, I'm just kidding. It's crazy that I still hear people ask this question. I was training a client, a few weeks ago that just started, and he's like, "I'm gonna start doing more sit-ups. I want to get rid of this abdominal fat." And I'm like, "Good luck with that, bro." Okay, so but just there is a slight bit of research that I've read in the past, and I don't know if this is true or not, that you actually can do a minimal amount of like spot specific, reduction in abdominal fat by doing abdominal work. So I don't know if that's true or not. It may have some relationship, but in general, by doing more abdominal work, whatever the exercise is, you're not going to get more ripped abs. It's all about a matter of just, being in that, getting your calories down just right. So you're in a little bit of a potentially a maintenance or a deficit. Doing abdominal exercise is great, but don't think that the more crunches you're going to do is going to start burning off inches off your belly fat. It doesn't work like that. Okay. It's a full MMA multi-modality approach. You need to do the exercise, the nutrition, the mindset, the consistency, put it all together, then you'll lose the abdominal fat.
I love it. That's such good advice. And yeah, I love that you started out with, we kind of made light of it there because we hear this question so often and it seems so silly to us. But to someone who doesn't know, hey, we appreciate the fact that you do think that that's possible, but we're here to tell you stop thinking that. Watch out for the advice you get from, the charlatans across the internet who are going to tell you, here's my 6-pack ab workout and it's going to guarantee to shred you up. And all they give you is like 6 different exercises to do for crunches. And, that's not going to shred you up. You've got to have the full package like Coach was just talking about. Here's a way that I like to frame things so people can understand why we do what we do. And so the first one is if you're lifting weights or doing exercises, it's to improve strength. It's not to reduce body fat or to sculpt a muscle or whatever. These are terms that we hear thrown around a lot. All I want you to focus on is if you're going to do crunches, great. You're going to get down there and you're going to overload that with some stimulus that's going to cause growth in the rectus abdominal muscle. Now, someone might see that the abdominals are slightly growing. If we took the same amount of body fat and you grow the muscle underneath it, it's going to surface more. You're going to see it more, right? And so you think this spot reduction thing's working because I've been doing crunches and I'm starting to see some change. So we assume that the change was because of the crunches. But what's happened is you're building a muscle wall underneath. If you're doing weighted crunches, you're starting to see muscle adaptation. The muscles are growing and enlarging. And if you're not gaining any body fat, they're going to appear to be popping through a little bit more than they used to. So you think you're spot reducing. You're not reducing anything. You're just building underneath, right? So we're building a frame underneath. The second thing is nutrition. Nutrition is where the calorie reduction takes place or the use of calories in the way of calories in, calories out in the monitoring. That calorie difference can cause you to get your deficit for weight loss. And so if nutrition focus is right and tailored properly for you, then you're going to start to see some of that body fat and that weight coming down. Now, if you're doing the crunches, you're building up and you're taking the nutrition, you're shrinking it down, you're going to start to see the abs even more. And now you're matching the nutrition and the ab workout because they're two different things. They're two different purposes, but they're causing that result. And you think, again, your sit-ups are doing the job, right? Because you keep going back to, hey, I've been doing this ab work. And so now you've got nutrition helping expose the result from the training. And then you've got your cardio work, which is for your heart. You shouldn't be doing cardio for the fat loss or the muscle building or any of that, because it's not going to work. Cardio is for heart rate training. That's a conditioning aspect. You got to keep that in check, because that's going to be your oxygen, your VO2 utilization. And of course, if you get good oxygenated muscle contractions, you get even better on your results of building out. So you got to have the cardio, and you got to have the nutrition, and you got to have the weight training, all three pieces of the movement, the MMA, right? The coach was just talking about. But you got to put them all together, and then realize that when you get back and you start seeing your abs coming through because you got all three of those pieces right, someone structured them, a good coach who knows what they're doing, structured them for you, you still can't go back and give the credit to the sit-ups and think that you spot reduced, right? Because it took all three pieces. And that's what coach was saying there too, is that it takes the multiple modalities to get you there. And you've got to consider all the pieces. So I hope that that framework gives you an understanding that you're not going to get in the gym and spot reduce because you do crunches. You're not going to, get leaner biceps because you hit more bicep curls. You're not going to get bigger and more defined shoulders because you do more shoulder presses. You're going to have to go through the different modes to get there and utilize nutrition and utilize weight training for what they're supposed to be for. Because I see a lot of people who just want to, I need to get leaner and I want to get more tone. So I'm just going to hit cardio really hard. And I'm going to go after it because I know that if I reduce the calories through high cardio, I'm going to be able to get ripped. I saw, and I think about it like a marathon runner. They do a lot of cardio. Right. And it's like, they don't look ripped, but you look at, like, say, a full power lifter who lifts extremely heavy weight all the time. They don't look ripped either. Right. There's two different ends of the spectrum. And somewhere in the middle of that is the person who gets, a balance of those two worlds, the marathon runner and the power lifter. And if you can frame that in your mind, like, okay, I see the differences there, and how spot reduction is never going to be the goal. It doesn't make sense that it would ever be the outcome anyway. So when we talk about this, how do I get my exercises for losing abdominal fat? It's not really any given exercise at all. Although, like Coach Aaron said, there's a value to core work for sure. But think of all strength training for the same purpose: to build strength, to gain postural, postural benefits. And of course, your confidence and everything's going to come off of that strength you have, but you're not going to see a lot of that muscle you've been building on until you get the nutrition part right, and then start to bring the cardiovascular benefits in for your heart health. What do you think, Coach? Are those three pillars pretty well framed there? Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I like the aspect of, like, I think of it like this: the more muscle, the higher your metabolism. So, by doing those shoulder presses or whatever, it is going to help you build more muscle, and that more muscle is going to help to increase your overall basal metabolic rate. So it is beneficial like that. And like Coach said, get that, that cardio in, especially for your heart health and stuff. It will have a degree of assistance as well in the fat loss. That's why a lot of bodybuilders and stuff start ramping up their cardio and stuff, and they're really trying to get really cut up for a competition or something like that. But you don't want to overdo it at the same time, because then you're going to tap into that muscle and maybe diminish some of your muscle gains. So it's a real fine balance. And again, we're just always going to bring this back to, like, reach out to help, because, I used to think that, personal trainers and stuff, it's kind of like not that much to it, because I've been doing my whole life. And the more I have been into this coaching business, the longer I'm like, this is kind of like rocket science in a lot of ways. There's a lot to this that a lot of people just don't get until you put all the pieces together. So.
Love that. Yes, it is a science, and it takes a lot of time and experience. And that's part of the reason in one of our previous episodes, we were talking about experienced coaches versus just coaches in general. There's a lot of them out there who realize that in personal training, you can make some money. If people, and if you're into fitness and you like to work out, might as well go get certified to be a trainer. And over the course of this weekend, I could come out as a certified trainer. I go take a 2-day course and I'm certified. I got a piece of paper that says I can do this now. You got minimal knowledge, you got minimal to no experience, right? And then you're putting yourself out there as a coach because, hey, you look pretty good. You're young, you're fit. And everybody starts buying into that. And that's what we're talking about. There's literally our guys, we were watching some Mind Pump the other day where they're talking about the war in the industry right now. There's so much misleading information, so many people trying to make money off of the back of people who want to get fit and healthy. And again, if you're in it for the money, you might as well stop right now, because that's not why you do this. You do it because you love it, because you're passionate about it, because you want to gain experience. Coach Aaron and I, as we talk about all the time, we really rest our laurels on our experience. We've been at it a long time. We've seen the ins and the outs of this business. We've seen the crash and burns. We've even done them ourselves. I remember a time where I used cardio as my way to get lean as much as I could. I was cardioing for hours, running and pounding on my joints. And it was so much that my muscle was actually being like I was taking away. And like coach said, you're actually going to send a signal to your body. And here's a great way to frame it. If you start training like a marathoner who's running all the time, you're going to send a signal to the body. The body's going to say, I need to get rid of this muscle then because that muscle's weighing us down. It's causing us to not be as efficient as a runner. So all this running you're doing is guaranteed that the body will help you get better at running by getting rid of the muscle. You're sending the wrong signal because that is going to be a time trade right now. I'll run, I'll lose weight. Yeah, you're going to see the result. But then as soon as you stop running, you're also going to see that rebound because the body's been paring down unhealthy to try to help you achieve what you were doing. Like Coach Aaron was saying, build the strength signal. That muscle is an investment for your future. Guaranteed. It's going to build your metabolic rate, but at the same time, you get to keep the muscle. It's not like when I stop weight training, the muscle is going to disappear completely. Where on the other way, if you stop the cardio running, it will disappear. That's the investment trade you were making there. There was no investment. Now the muscle is going to work for you. It's going to burn calories on a daily basis just to exist on your body. Put your focus into lean muscle building. That's got to be your main priority. And then nutritionally feed that, drive it, and then add a little cardio for heart health to accessorize your performance. I think that's the best framework we could give somebody. And that's from beginner to advanced. We still got advanced people who are putting all their eggs in that one basket. And then they go, well, it's time to lean out. And they go into this, I'm going to cut for the next 6 weeks. So I'm going to go hard on the cardio. It's like, you're also going to be taken away from all that hard work you put in on the muscle because your body adapts to the signals. So you want to periodize the training properly. And again, do you know how to periodize? I didn't when I started, and I'm willing to admit I didn't, but I've studied for years to learn how to make sure that I don't hit that plateau. And now that as I work with athletes and I've worked with some of the OHL level, our Ontario Hockey League, we're working with these players and stuff. You see that they've got different demands on their bodies in season and out of season. MMA fighters, coach, have you worked with any fighters since you've become a coach, working with like actual MMA fighters?
Yeah, well, I started even 20 years ago. I had my own team called the Submission Coalition, and I was coaching them and taking amateur and pro fighters around to different events and stuff. So I've been working with MMA fighters for over a couple decades now, and even doing it more recently as well, helping with their strength and conditioning. So yeah.
Yeah. And you'll notice too that you train them slightly differently in preseason or post fight in a camp versus as you get closer to fight time. The training has to change. And so most people out there go, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to change to. I would just be doing the same thing. I mean, this has been working for me, but it's like that's where you're going to hit the wall and you're going to fail. And that
Yeah.
goes for coaches out there. If you're a coach listening to this, we want to let you know that if you don't know about proper periodization and stuff, it's something you want to get into and learn. And you can take those courses and learn about them, but understand that you're only going to do someone more damage if you just let your ego ride and go, here's how it works. Here's how I do it. They shouldn't train like you. They should train based on what you know. And for those of you listening, Aaron and I are saying there's a lot of different modalities that you have to use. There's a lot of periodization to make sure that you're breaking plateaus, and you've got to do it safely and effectively. So, and again, we came here off of spot training from abdominals, but I think that it's very important to realize that there's a lot of different ways to go about it, and experience is trumping everything here because we've seen so much and so many things go wrong for people. Do you think that stretches, and this is a question we got, what are the best exercises and stretches to help relieve back pain and neck pain? And do you think that stretches should be done in the beginning of a workout, or should they be done at the end of a workout? Or are there something different about stretches? There's such a thing as static stretch or dynamic stretch. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you don't know the answers, that's what we're here for. We're going to try and make it make sense to you. So, Coach Aaron, what about stretches? How do you work them into your workout?
I think the first one was regarding neck and back pain or something like that, right?
Yep, that's
So,
yeah, neck and back pain.
yeah. So I went to massage therapy school, one of the best schools in the country, so that I could travel all over the country anywhere I wanted to. So I got like nationally certified in this body work training. So I've done a lot of extensive stuff on like the anatomy, physiology, and a lot of it comes down to especially when it comes to like, as well as that, I've been growing up in like, my brother's a chiropractor. So I've been, worked on the alignment of the body, basically from a structural skeletal point of view to like a musculoskeletal kind of balance. So a lot of neck and back pain just comes down to muscular imbalance a lot of times. I mean, unless there's like some actual, blunt trauma impact from like, getting rear-ended or getting in an accident and stuff like that. And there's some herniation, bulging discs or stuff. A lot of it is muscular in nature, and that musculature is going to throw the body alignment out of balance. And then you're going to develop neck and back pain because for instance, you've got a protruding neck like this. So your back of the neck muscles get tight and restricted, and the front of the neck muscles get stretched. So there's this imbalance. And so you need to create this symmetrical balance between the push and the pull muscles, like I was saying earlier. Um, so in regards to neck and back pain, you want to think about that alignment of, like, say your cervical region and your lumbar, your low back region. So like, let's take the low back region, for example. A lot of times people have like a anterior pelvic tilt where their pelvis is here. It's tilted forward a little bit because their hip flexors, the muscles in front of the body here, are really tight and restricted because they were sitting all day long, a lot of people. So their hip flexors become tight. And then they need to stretch those out. And then maybe they need to do some strengthening of their lumbar muscles and the low back. So it's this fine balance again, and it comes down to like a real personalized approach. One of the things that I like to do is like a body assessment, and we'll just see what you look like from the front view, from the side view, and how is your body structure? Is there anterior or posterior pelvic tilt of the pelvis, of the neck? What do you need to work on from a structural point of view to be able to balance all of that stuff out? And then you can develop a strength training program and a stretching protocol based off of your own personalized needs. So there's that in regards to the back and neck pain is one aspect of things, as well as hitting trigger points like with the massage therapy. I like to do some trigger point therapy. A lot of times you get tight muscles in the neck from being like this all day. So maybe some deep tissue massage. There's some other ways to do like self massage with some tools and stuff that you could do, because the muscles stay in a constricted, um, you know, they're constricted for a while, so they lack the blood flow. The nerves start to get this inflammation and stuff in there, so you need to get some blood flow and some oxygenation to relieve that pain in there. A lot of times it's just trigger point referral pain. And then as far as stretching goes for the workouts and stuff, it's generally recommended to do more of your active dynamic stretches prior to the workout. So more of like you're moving, you're stretching, you're getting some good full range of motion in the joints. And that way you're kind of preparing the nervous system. You're getting some elasticity in the joints and stuff prior to the workout. You don't want to do a lot of real extensive static stretching where you're taking a chest through a full range of motion stretch prior to doing like a heavy bench press or something like that. You kind of want to, I like to do my active and dynamic stretches first, then do my workout, and then more of the elongated static stretching post workout to help re-elasticize that connective tissue in the fascia. I'm making up words here, but you get the gist.
That's awesome. I agree with you, man, 100%, guaranteed. The dynamic stretch sends a signal. And again, I always think about, what am I sending a signal to my body for? This goes for all, for your self-talk. We talked about that in the last episode, the mental health signals you send your body. So as you get into the workout, and you first thing you're going to do is you're going to go in there and start dynamic stretch. You're going to send a signal to the body to say, hey, there's no real resistance here, but I'm moving through a range of motion. I'm starting to prepare that movement pattern. That's great. That's a warm-up. Now, some people say I do a warm-up set really light. We suggested that earlier, maybe a first set at 30 to 50% of your maximum rate, which could be considered a dynamic warm-up for that specific movement. But we're talking even less intensity than that, moving through the hip joint, taking those pelvic tilts and really priming the body for what's about to come. I love using this technique before, say, like squats and deadlifts to really prime the hip hinging that you're going to be using in those movements. But don't send the other signal, which is the static stretch. The reason that I say that is because static sends a signal to my body to do what? To relax, to rest, and shut her down, right? A static stretch is a long hold. So I'm going to stretch the static on the shoulder. And those of you who are listening only to this, I'm kind of doing the cross the front of the body with the arm and holding at the elbow to stretch the shoulder. Now I'm sending a signal to my shoulder to relax, to breathe. We're not sending a let's get going signal. We're sending a let's shut her down. It's the end of the day signal. Now I go to do my shoulder press. That muscle is in a relaxed and rested state. It's not in a let's get going state. And I'm probably more risk of injury now because I did it that way. So, Coach Aaron, I 100% agree with you. Rest the muscle at the end of the workout by static stretching it down. Very, very beneficial. But dynamic stretch to warm it up. Prime it and get it ready. Think of a priming of the pump. Pump it through, get it moving, and then start the engine. So that's a pretty cool. I'm all about analogies. You know me. So
Yeah, I love it. Love the analogies, man. So
there you go.
helpful.
It sometimes frames it, right? I think for me, that's the biggest
Yeah,
part. I need to see it sometimes, not just hear it. So that's why I want you to
yeah.
watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, take notes on the podcast, write things down that we're giving you because, I mean, it's gold, right? So that's good. And I love the trigger point therapy part too. Do you agree with foam roller as a tool, the foam roller device?
I like the foam roller. Yeah, yeah, I like the foam roller, especially for like working on the TFL, like the IT band of the legs and stuff for runners. I used to work at like the University of Colorado on some of the football players and the track athletes, and they just get from running so much, they get this overuse of like the outside of the legs, the iliotibial tract. So foam
Mhm.
rollers work great on stuff like that. And you can, I mean, on the back, you could use it in a multitude of different muscles. Foam rollers are freaking awesome. And you
That's
can get
cool.
yeah, you can even. I have these other little things. They're like little massage balls. They look like a couple of balls, and they're
Yeah.
like they have this little joint thing in the middle, and then but you can fit it on either side of your spine. It's like a hard rubber lacrosse ball, and that's really good for a little bit more spot specific deep tissue work too. So the foam roller is good for more of like a general approach usually, and then you could use more isolation things if you want to get like a little more surgical with it and get
Mhm.
into those little fine fibers of the shoulders or traps or something like that too.
That's good. I think when you're talking about the trigger one, the lacrosse ball, I've used that one with the little spinal part in the middle. I've also had people who don't have that one and said, well, you could use just like you said, a lacrosse ball or a very hard rubber ball. Tennis ball is not usually the best because it has too much give in it.
Yeah.
But if you took something a little more like a golf ball, lacrosse ball, something hard, and put it in a sock, and you can actually throw it over your shoulder with you're holding the sock in front, and you can put your back against the wall and you can massage it in. That's a great way for people who get trap pain and up in the rear delt area and the shoulders to really release some pressure in those trigger spots. I've used
Yeah.
that one. I've used it with clients. They find that to be magic, and it's pretty low cost to build that device, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to share with you really quick a story of my personal foam roller experience. And guys out there who are listening, I know where you're at if you're saying, foam roller, screw that. That's a waste of my time. I was there. I was that guy. I never believed in the foam roller. I saw other trainers and coaches using them at the gym, and I thought, what a goofy thing to do. They're just rolling around on this stupid little, piece of, I don't know what it was. It was like, I think there was a company that was kind of yoga related company. So it looked almost like a marketing tool, back in the day of the ab roller, like the ab rocker. They had
Yeah.
like these
Yeah.
crazy infomercial. That's how I viewed the foam roller. And so I was watching people in the gym using it. I thought, what a waste of time. Then we had a competition amongst the trainers, which was super cool. It brought some good energy to our gym. So trainers listening, this is a cool idea to do. Every trainer, we had the kind of like the males versus females. And so there was an exercise, say push up or squat or pull up or whatever, and we would compete to see who could accumulate the greatest number as reps as a team amongst the guys and versus the girls, right? And so it came to squats. And so in the squat competition, the girls dominated, right? The girls were just built to squat. And the guys were suffering like crazy, racking up, 25 squats and then tapping out kind of thing. Here, I had just joined this staff and I was brand new to them. So they didn't really know me. They knew a little bit about my background, but I had been boxing and training my whole life, right? And so I had pretty incredible leg stamina from the type of training that we did, but I never weight trained. So I wasn't as strong as I was endurance based. I had trained the marathon runner versus the sprinter, like we talked about. And so I come in and the guys have got this horrific total and they're like, oh, the squat, we get beat on this every time. And I was like, dudes, we're about to change this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring it. And so I knew the number I had to beat was 119, but that was to make up the difference. So to get to 119 tied the women. So we would be on par. And I was like, so I
Yeah.
actually need 120 to win this thing. And so
Yeah.
I'm telling you, dude, by the time I got to about 75, 80, I was on fire. And
Oh
my legs were
God.
burning. I was starting to doubt myself. I was like, this is unreal. And you're wondering, how does this go to foam roller? I'll show you in a second. So I'm at about 80 reps. I'm burning. And I'm like, no way we're losing this, guys. I'm going for it. And they're like cheering me on, right? And so I got this ton of community. The guys are like, go, coach, And I'm like, oh yeah, we got this. And I'm breathing my way through. I end up pumping out the 115, 116 range, and the girls are like, he's not going all the way down. Like they're trying to discredit, to like
Yeah,
not count
yeah,
my reps.
yeah.
And so I made it a point to go even deeper and show them, again, I'm going to win this, right? So I went all the way down, all the way up, and I was on fire, man. My legs were seizing
Oh,
bad. And so I end up getting to 120 and I do an extra one just to make sure I solidify there in case you questioned a rep or two, right? I'll get
yeah,
a little,
yeah.
I literally at the end of it tried to stand up and I couldn't, man. I seized right up and I ended up
Oh,
sitting like sitting down. My legs were locked. And so the guys were like high-fiving me and we won, right? They were jacked. We've never won, never beat the females. And I was like, that was awesome, right? And I thought to myself, like, it felt so good to win. But we've been talking about overtraining. We've been talking about doing too much, right? And so the next day, I tried to walk to work. Not going to happen. Had to literally take a ride to get to work. Got to the gym, and I didn't want the guys to see how bad a shape I was in. I couldn't move, man. Like I couldn't walk. And so I was like, I need to
oh,
do something. I didn't know what to do. And I got desperate and I thought, what's the one thing that I, have never really experienced? And I went over to that stupid little infomercial area with that foam rolling gadget. I put it on the floor and I said, I've got to try something. I laid down on that thing and no word of a lie. After I laid on it and I just let it sit on my quad. So I laid on it forward in like a plank with my quads right on there. It hurt so bad, dude. It was painful, maximum pain, but like different from the burn. It was just pressure pain. Like you're getting a massage therapist who's pushing deep into the tissue. It's like you're almost in tears. And
yeah.
then I rolled around a little bit from back and front, and then I got up off the foam roller, not knowing, I was no longer feeling that it was as tight, but I didn't really know what was going to happen when I stood up. And dude, I stood up and I had full range of motion, absolutely no pain at all. I was like, this is magic, like literally
Yeah.
magic. And about 15 minutes later, I was barely walking again. So I
Mm,
realized, okay, it was a temporary fix. I do need to implement it more frequently. So I went back to the section and did it again. Sure enough, complete release. 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, it started to seize up again. Because again, it was kind of trying to heal, right, from the damage that I did. I had done such severe damage that every 15 or 20 minutes, I was needing to go do it again. But what we're saying here is that's the proof I needed to know this works. It was incredible. So those guys listening who say, I got no time for that foam roll and stuff, if you just do like more of like a once a week protocol of breaking down the tissues and kind of resetting everything, you won't need to do it every 15 minutes or every 20 minutes because you've done such savage damage to your muscle. You're just going to keep it at bay so that you're not getting overly tight and you're able to do your next workout with even better performance. So I have 100% full faith in foam rollers. That's why I asked you, Coach, what did you think of it? That's my direct experience. And I'm telling you, it was literally that magic moment that this works. And it was free, right? I didn't have to go to a massage therapist and pay, high ticket money to go get someone to work on my quads. So if you want, an affordable way to do it, bring it home with you. Foam roller is fantastic. And again, we've got programs for foam rolling. If you need guidance, there's also videos and things out there you can get your hands on. But again, you just want to make sure that you're putting at least once a week in there just to break the tissue down, especially if you got a tight spot. And it gives you a chance to get that relief. And there's nothing better than relief after, when it's tight and painful like that.
yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
story, man. You can picture the the level of that light bulb going off for me when I stood up and it was like no pain, gone. It was the magic
Awesome.
pill. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great freaking story, dude. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. And that also goes back to like our point earlier. Someone asked about back and neck pain too. Like
Mhm.
foam rollers and massage tools and techniques are great for relieving back pain. So if you want to work out your low back, spinal erectors are tight, or if you want to work out your hip flexors, or maybe your quads are helping to pull your pelvis out of alignment and stuff, really start utilizing some of those foam rolling techniques as well to alleviate and heal yourself. Because I mean, you could go to a chiropractor, a physical therapist, or a massage therapist, or an acupuncturist and pay shit ton of money every week or something, or you could learn some basic self-care techniques and fix a lot of these problems yourself just by learning some new modalities like the foam roller.
Hmm. Yeah, very good. How are we doing for time, Coach? As far as our
Yeah,
questions today, we got a lot of questions.
I know. At first you were saying we might have to break this into two episodes, and I think you're probably right. What have we got? How many have we got through? We still got a couple more to go, or what?
Oh yeah, yeah, we still got a few to go. So
I'm good. I'm good on time though. So whatever you if you want to keep
okay,
rocking and
cool.
rolling,
Well,
or
you know what? Let's shoot maybe a couple more questions for the listeners who are joining us today. But listen, we've got enough questions here to create a part two. So those of you who are listening, the bonus is going to be to know ahead of time that we've got more Q&A coming your way in the next episode because we've still got some really great conversation. I'm sure we got some great stories that we're going to bring experience to you on each of these questions. There's some of the questions that are nutrition related, some of the questions that are hormone related. Some of these questions are still exercise related. It does seem that exercise is the main area that people are focusing on, but at the same time, I think in my experience, nutrition is an area where most people struggle, but they don't realize its correlation to the training. So they give all the value to the training and they think if I'm working out, I'm winning. And if I'm not working out, I'm losing. But realistically, the fuel is coming from the nutrition. So I'm thinking maybe we should tackle at least one or two nutrition questions. What do you think, Coach?
yeah, most definitely.
Good there. Okay, cool. So first question comes from one of our Billies who is a truck driver and says, "What is the best fast food when I'm out on the road?" Now, when he says fast food, I don't think he just means your typical food chain of fast food, but he's saying I need fast food. I need something that's ready, something that's available because I'm on the road, I'm busy, and I can't get out of the truck. Personally, I had a trucking client in the past who was very successful with just nutrition, could barely get him into the gym. And in fact, I didn't see him for months, but he came into the gym one time, came to the front desk and said to me, I need help with my food when I'm on the road. I don't even have time for the gym. Can I succeed? I need to lose some weight. I said, absolutely. We can get you set up with some nutrition and you don't need to exercise. I mean, obviously it's going to help. It's going to benefit. But if we're just talking weight loss, we can definitely create caloric deficits and we can keep you eating healthier and cleaner. So I gave him a protocol to follow with a set plan. And I think he disappeared for about 4 months. Didn't see the dude. He walked back into the gym, came to the front desk and goes, remember me? And I was like, something's familiar about this dude, but I've not really worked with him much more than the first time I saw him, right? And put his plan together. And then his face, and he goes, I'm the truck driver who came in here about 4 months ago. And I was like, oh, dude. And I remembered his name because I'm pretty good with names once I get it. And I was like, I remember his name. I shook his hand and I said, you look incredible. He goes, I follow your plan. I haven't deviated from it in 4 months. And I said, how much have you been in the gym? And he goes, not at all. I've been on the road nonstop. So I was like, he literally lost weight. And again, covered by clothing, looked fantastic, right? I don't know what his musculature looked like because he hadn't been training. But that being said, that's just a direct example that having food on the road can be a successful way to lose the weight and at least get you to your weight goal. And then if you can hit the gym, you're going to accentuate that with building some nice lean muscle. So again, I didn't see the clothes off, no shirt type version. I just saw the dress, but he looked fantastic. And man, was he happy. He was like, dude, you changed my life. And that's what we do. We love this because of it. So Coach, I'm going to bring it back to you now. What's the best food, fast food, when a truck driver or a worker is on the road on the go?
I would say, I live by this. Like food preparation is key. Like if you can do your own food prep, I take an ice chest with me just about everywhere I go. If I'm going to be gone for several hours at a time, I've got my food already prepared, so I'll throw it in my ice chest. You could do, protein shakes and smoothies. You could prepare like two or three of those in advance. So you like have enough, shakes to get you through a whole day if you're going to be working a whole shift or something like that. Throw some fruit, maybe some apples, some nuts in there. Jerky is kind of another good one I like, just a really quick, easy go-to finger food. But Quest bars is another a good one if you're more of just like want a really simple, quick fix, and you're just like don't have any refrigeration on you, and you just want something that's kind of like get some calories in you, a little bit of protein, but kind of on the low carb side. If you're like a Quest bar is kind of cool. But I'm a real big advocate on doing your food prep and just making it such a non-negotiable habit that you're never without your next meal,
Hmm.
ideally.
Good. And so I'm going to play the role of a client who's like, okay, Coach Aaron, so meal prep, what does that entail? I'm not a cook. I suck at cooking. I don't cook. Um, how am I gonna like what do I need for meal prep? What's the fastest way for me to prep something valuable to take with me?
Yeah, so one of the things I like that's super simple and you don't have to be very cook savvy to do it. I mean, get some ground turkey or some ground chicken. It's like you don't have to worry about getting checking the temperature of getting it just right and all that stuff. Just put it in a freaking skillet, cook up a couple of pounds of ground turkey or chicken or something like that. Keep mixing it up with the little spatula until it's all good. So then you got your protein. Then throw in some vegetables in there. Whether it's canned vegetables, frozen vegetables, fresh vegetables. If you're really just on the fly and on the go, maybe just use some canned vegetables for the day. I mean, it's better to get some vegetables in you probably rather than nothing at all. So you got some protein, some vegetables. If you're having carbohydrates in your diet, how hard is it to cook up a couple cups of some minute rice or something like that? You throw it in a pan, you bring it to a boil, you cover it and take it off the stove. You got it. You're done. You put that in some little Tupperwares and you got yourself enough food prep for the whole day. Or you get yourself a blender. You put a little protein powder in the blender, throw a couple pieces of fruit in there, maybe some nut butter, some almond butter, some flax seeds or whatever's your fancy. And then again, you've got some fully, good macronutrients, so your proteins, your carbs, your healthy fats, all in one shebang. You pack in your little ice chest and you're good to go, bro. No excuses.
I love it. You got me. You got me. Okay, so I'm not a cook, but that sounds easy enough, right?
It is. It is.
I can do that. And how many Tupperwares should I be bringing? Well, that's going to be based on how many calories I should be consuming, and that's a bit more, designed based on you, the individual who's asking that question. We can't just say bring 3 Tupperwares full of ground beef. That might not be suitable to your goal. But the answer that Coach gave you is exactly how you're going to do it. That's meal prep. Now, I'm going to play the role of someone who says, okay, well, it's expensive to buy ground beef and ground turkey and stuff like that. Is there another option? Number one, I don't want to cook, and number two, I'm trying to keep it cheap. Have you ever used the option, Coach, where there are some food services out there that you can actually order like pre-made meals, healthy for a week? And again, maybe that might be an inexpensive way to take a week off from meal prep and have them prepare it for you. Have you ever used any of those services? I personally have not, but I've had clients who have, and they said it was night and day different. I was asking them to meal prep, and they were saying, oh, they gave me every reason that they couldn't. And then they tried something like a Ready Fresh or a Hello Fresh or there's different services everywhere. I mean, in the US, there's probably a ton of different ones too. And we're not talking about DoorDash as a service, unless they're bringing you something from a quality, nutritional whole food type thing. But there are companies who actually make meals and they ask you questions in advance. Have you ever had a client or yourself? Have you ever tried those?
I haven't personally, but I've had a client that's used them with pretty good success, and they said they've got great meals, good variety. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how it is on the affordability scale. The one client I was working with was more on the wealthy side, so he could get whatever he wanted to.
Okay.
So I would think it's a little bit more of a luxury type thing where it's probably a little more pricey than doing the food prep yourself.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. Another
Yeah.
thing that you could do is go to like your favorite local restaurant. Like they've got this place here in town called Jimmy's Deli that makes some bomb ass chicken. You go to the deli, just get a couple pounds of some chicken that's already ready made, and then that's a good easy way to do it too.
I love that. Yeah. And that makes me think about something I actually implement myself. I buy a big package of chicken breasts and on, like I say, a Sunday night, cook all of them. It could be 8 chicken breasts in a package, one of those big packs, and cook all 8 of them. And then literally they're cooked and ready, put them in Tupperwares in the fridge, and it's literally grab and go. You got a full, give or take 8 ounces, 9 ounce chicken breast, and some of them they're big, and that's plenty. You know what I mean? For a meal's worth of chicken. You could also grab that and just pull it out and break it into little chicken cuts, chop it into chunks, dice it, put it on a salad. You could take it as a
Yeah.
snack, make your own little chicken fingers out of it. You know what I mean? There's so many ways to win, but all you have to do is have that chicken ready. So I tell my clients mostly when we talk meal prep, I'm talking protein prep. More than anything else, because carbs are pretty easy to come by. Most often, grab a handful of veggies, you got your good fibrous carbohydrates, and you're good to go. Throw them in your Tupperware. Some people can do raw, other people need them cooked, but they don't take long to cook either. Protein usually takes the longest to cook. So have that one ready. That's your fat. I always say if I spend more than 10 minutes in the kitchen, I'm not doing it right. My goal
Mm,
is to be 10 minutes in and out of there. That means I gotta have protein prepped. And I use things like canned tuna, and things like that too, sardines, mackerels. Some people go, oh God, that's terrible. If you don't like it, that's okay. It's just another quick fix where it's easy to get and I can get 30 grams of protein in a can of tuna. It's well worth it. And then I might be able to mix that with something and throw it in there with veggies and season it up and stuff. These are great ideas to keep it quick and simple. So again, we're talking about, how do you get these proteins and how do you get these calories and these meals on the road? You mentioned the ice chest. You weren't talking about cold breasts. You're talking about ice chest as in cooler, right?
yeah, exactly. Cold breasts. I like, there you go with another analogy. Give me some visuals. Hard nipples and cold breasts.
The ice chest, yeah. And so
Yeah,
a good cooler bag, and of course you mentioned the ice because you're trying to keep your food at a temperature that's not going to allow it to build bacteria or spoil. So very
yeah.
important. But you can get these things for pretty low cost. And when I was talking about the client who was doing the meal thing, she said based on the price of groceries, for a week, the price was pretty relative for a week, like to what she was spending on groceries to what she ordered in meals, because she was finding she wasn't buying all kinds of extras. When you go to the grocery store, a lot of times you buy the things you need, but then you go, oh, that's on sale, I'll grab that. And oh, that looks really good. And you grab that. Next thing you know, you got about $100 worth of extra groceries in the cart that you didn't actually come for or need. When you order online through a place like that, they provide you meal by meal and you're only getting the necessity. So she said she kind of trimmed her bill by 100, by getting it pre-made. So she knew she got her calories met, the macros were met. It was really dialed in. And she didn't spend any extra on the pushing the cart around and seeing a few temptations that found their way into the cart. So she said it kind of balanced out. So I was like, hey, that sounds really friggin' awesome and logically makes sense.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty good. Now, the next question off of that nutrition, and you mentioned protein because we really went into the protein there. What do you think about protein shakes? And how many a day should someone have? And is there a good brand you recommend? So first of all, when you have clients, how many shakes a day do you think they should be taking? And if they're taking shakes at all?
It all depends on how many, solid meals they like per day. I mean, I used to have this one regimen I was on for a while. I would have like 4 or 5 shakes a day. Like I would have nothing but shakes. I was doing like this cleansing type protocol, and it was just all shakes, but they were like filling shakes. Like they had a sufficient amount of protein in them, good healthy fats. I'd even throw some avocados in there to make them a little creamy and thicker and give some healthy fats, some healthy nuts and stuff. So you could do 3 to 5 shakes per day if you wanted to go that extreme route, which I've done in the past. Or if you're the type of person that wants to just get up and not focus a lot of time on breakfast, but just blend up something real quick. You could have just one smoothie in the morning and then the rest of your meals for solid meals. Or you could
Mm,
have, a smoothie for breakfast and then a solid meal for lunch. And then, midday, you just have another smoothie because you want something fast again. There's a multitude of different ways to put it together, right? As
yeah.
far as protein sources go, some of my favorite proteins that I've used in the past, there's one brand that I really liked. It was called Sun Warrior Protein, chocolate and vanilla, and that's a really good one. It's kind of a more vegetarian based one. I've always kind of shied away from like the whey proteins and stuff because I've had a little bit of a lactose intolerance, so I stay away from those for the most part. But another really good one that I do is Egg Whites International has this like pasteurized egg whites, and egg whites is a really good source of protein too. So you can just create a protein shake out of that. Um, so yeah, I mean, as simple as like adding some liquid egg whites, some fruits, some healthy fats, and you're good to go. Super short and simple.
Good advice, great quality. And when we're talking about supplements, that's probably another question altogether. But we were saying, and what you were saying there is whole foods first. Build your food, build your metabolism off of your body's ability to break down food, turn it into energy, and learn to process it. Your body, your metabolism needs to be trained too. You can't just eat supplements and liquefy, and all of that's pre-digested. It's going to go straight to your system. You're going to get the caloric values you need and the macronutrients you need, definitely. And that's why they're called supplements. They're meant to supplement the diet, right? So if you can't eat enough food in your day for whatever your reason is, then supplement makes a great opportunity to fill in the blanks. But it shouldn't be something you live on unless you're under a specific protocol, like Coach Aaron was doing a specific fast, or maybe your doctor has told you, don't eat anything solid for the next while because you got jaw surgery or whatever. You're gonna have specific reasons to not. But in most cases, though, food first, at least a couple good meals a day, and then supplement as needed, which is important. And again, I have a story just like yours where there was a time working in the gym as a trainer in the old brick and mortar style where my client roster was full and I was working literally back to back to back. I wasn't smart enough to book myself a lunch break or book myself a break between clients. I mean, I was running client after client. I'd get back to my door and there was a client standing there waiting for their session to start before the next one was even over. And it was just, okay, switch files, let's go. And I mean, I was in massive mode, right? It was just, my brain was on and I was like, it's going, now I'm getting really drained. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I was starting to really hate what I was doing, not because of the people or anything, but because I was just energized. Like I was out of energy. I was burning out. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, and that's no way to live. So I had to realize nutrition was an absolute must. And so I went to a guy who worked at a supplement store, and I said, "Can you help me out? I need something to keep me going." And what do you think I look for? Brain alertness. I looked for energy boosters. What can I do to get up? And thank God he was as knowledgeable as he was. He was like, no, stay away from that. You don't need nootropics and stuff right now. What you need is calories, man. You need energy, right? And so he said, what I'm gonna have to do is put you on a regimen where it's gonna be like 7 shakes a day. And so, like you were saying, Coach, there's times where this protocol does matter. And because he said, if you can't stop to eat, you're not taking any breaks, which I would recommend against, then you're going to have to live off of these shakes. And we did. I had about 3,000 calories in protein shakes and supplement. With no magic, to it. I was able to actually see some weight loss, of course, but I was still hitting 3,000 calories. Some of you out there aren't even eating that, even if you're eating real food. So you got to keep in mind, you need to fuel your body. Food is fuel. So I ended up with great results, but I had to use shakes as my modality at that point. We're not saying to do that. We're not glorifying it. It's just something in a specific circumstance that we had to use. And we're still here today to talk about it. So there you go.
Yeah,
right. Some people are like, wouldn't that kill you?
No,
right?
It works, man. Especially when you're busy like that, just going from client to client, you don't have time to actually sit down and eat a meal. You can just drink a shake and keep moving and grooving. They come in really handy for sure.
Good. So to the guys out there listening to that, we want to make sure that you're getting those shakes in there to fill in the blanks. And that can be definitely if you're trying to hit a certain amount of protein. We like to use the science that's being shown out there as 1 gram per pound of body weight. Which usually is giving you a pretty good target to shoot. And if you fall short of it, you're still hitting about 0.8 times your body weight, which is really good to be in there. But if you're way down under that, take your body weight and multiply it by like say 0.5, and you're only hitting that protein, you got a lot of room for improvement there. We could definitely help get you up there by using some shakes and some supplement if that's the only other way to do it. So get your ice chests ready, and we're not talking the cold breasts, all right? So another good way to do it too is, of course, thinking about hydration. Just keeping your hydration up. When you're doing shakes, you're also getting water, right? You're mixing in the water. And every episode, we take a time to stop and to congratulate all the men listening to the podcast and say, keep up the good work. We're here to support you. We love you. And we raise a toast to you. So let's take our drink break here. And Coach Aaron, what are you drinking today?
Salute. I'm just drinking some spring water in my copper filled water bottle, man. Getting that copper in me.
All right. Cheers, brother.
Salute.
Oh, that feels good. That feels good. All right, guys. So on that note, we've all had a drink together. We've raised a toast and a cheers to the Ultimate Man podcast and to you, our listeners. We love you guys. We've gone through a good series of questions so far, but I think we're going to stop it right there because we've still got another episode coming for you with the rest of these questions. There's a lot of value. And one of the fun questions that came in and is coming up in the next episode was somebody asked about our favorite MMA fighter and our favorite boxer and why we like them so much, and if there's any training protocols we've taken from them. Maybe it's mindset, maybe it's exercise activity, maybe it's nutrition. Like, what did you learn from that guy, if anything at all? So they want us to dive into that. So I'm going to get that, that concept ready for the next episode. And if you want to find out more about who we like, why we like them, you're going to want to tune in the next episode. Plus, we got the Strickland versus Duplessis fight coming up, and it's going to time perfectly with the release of this episode, as well as, if you haven't heard the main event episode we had with Dylan Taylor on here, we talked and we made some predictions. Now it's time for us to find out if our predictions were right. So on the next episode, you guys are going to find out a whole lot of information. So, Coach Aaron, anything you want to add for today?
No, I'm so excited for the next fight, though. That's going to be awesome. Coming up this Saturday. Yeah, it's going to be a barn burner, dude. Really looking forward to that.
Ah, nice. Perfect. Well, I can't wait to talk about it on the next episode. Find out if we were right in our predictions, because I did go against you guys. I stuck with Dracus Duplessis. So see what happens. And of course, we have another set of questions from our Q&A with the coaches coming your way. So until then, Coach.
Hey, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. As always, leave us a comment in the comments below here. Let us know what you got out of this episode, what you'd like to see in future episodes. If you got any questions for us, drop them in the comments below and let's go, bro.
Bring it in.
Yeah.